again, readers. So we are talking about inferencing this week, and so I want to put it into practice a little bit today for you. Now you remember that we went over how we determine inferencing, and now we're going to actually apply it into what we're reading today. So I want us to go back, we're in Frog and Toad again, and I want us to go back to when we read the story, The Button. Okay, and I just want us to read a little bit of the story again, and I want us to practice doing our super detective inferencing again. Okay, let's go. The Lost Button. Toad and Frog went for a walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of my buttons on my jacket." Now let's just stop there for a second and think. Did I have some text clues there? Let me think. Oh, drat. You remember he said, "Oh, drat." Well, does that tell me that maybe he's not very happy? You don't say, "Oh, drat," if you're in a happy place. You say it because you're upset. So right now, I'm thinking when I say, "Oh, drat," I also know that that's when I'm upset, right? So I've used my text clues and what I already know about using words like "oh, drat," and I'm going to infer, or I'm going to think that Toad is not very happy right now. All right, let's continue. "Don't worry," said Frog. "We'll go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here is your button," cried Frog. "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button is white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow, "did you lose a button?" "I found one." "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button has 4 holes." Toad put the button with 2 holes in his pocket. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the small button in his pocket. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard that you were looking for a button," he said. "Here is one I just found." "That is not my button," wailed Toad. So I'm going to think, if I am wailing, that means like I'm almost crying, right? It's not my button. So if the text told me that he wailed, which doesn't sound like a very happy sound, right? That means that's probably not good. If the text tells me he wailed, it means he's crying. And then I'm going to use my background knowledge. When I cry, I'm not very happy. How about you? So I'm going to know that the text told me that he wailed, and I know that that means that does not make a character very happy. And so I can infer that Toad is very, very upset. This is how we know we can infer. We just used our super detective skills in order to know more about our character of Toad. Let's continue. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," shouted Frog. That is not my button. He shouted. Well, when I shout, that usually means I'm angry, right? So the text tells me that he shouted. I know that when I shout, or when people shout, I hear people shouting, I know they're angry. And so I can put those two things together, and I know that he is angry. This is how you can infer in your reading. Today, look at the activity listed in the plans, and I want you to pick out some places in your reading today, as you do independently read, where you used your super detective inferencing skills. Okay, great. Have a great rest of the day, second graders.